Hello, and welcome back to another episode of ICU. Today's episode is going to be focused on speaking out about IC and how to advocate. So, this is a special episode to celebrate IC Awareness Month, and this is something that I feel like we just need to get out there, put it out in the world, and hopefully by the end of this episode, you feel encouraged and motivated to start talking about IC in your day-to-day life. So let's start out. I want to know, because if you have IC, you've probably mastered the art of pretending you're fine when your bladder feels like it's on fire or it's going to fall out or it's going to explode, whatever that feels like for you. But let me ask you this. When was the last time you really talked about it? Not just mentioned it in passing, but actually named it, explained it, and owned it. So many of us shrink our stories, and it's not because we don't care, but it's because we've been made to feel like IC is a taboo topic, or it's too much, or we're too much. So on this episode, we're going to be flipping that script. We're gonna talk about some myths. We're gonna talk about some of my experiences with advocacy, and then at the end, I will explain how you guys can advocate. Okay? So let's be real. Most people with IC aren't staying quiet about it because they don't care. They're staying quiet about it maybe because they are uncomfortable talking about it. Maybe they're just tired. They've been dismissed. You don't want to be that person who is just going on and on about problems that you're experiencing. Okay, a lot of us are carrying shame that we didn't create and is not our fault. We really need to flip the script and stop with the narrative of, oh, I'm too much. It's easier to just deal with it quietly. No one gets it anyway, so what's the point? Or I don't want to make people uncomfortable. We really need to reframe these thoughts because you are not too much. Your symptoms are real, okay? No matter what anybody tells you, no matter what weird, unusual symptoms you have, these symptoms are real. What you're experiencing is legit. You're not making it up. You're not crazy, okay? No matter what anybody tells you, you need to, really be comfortable admitting that, like, and have that true belief that this is my body, this is what I'm feeling, this is real, okay? So know that you're not too much. You're just a person that is experiencing some symptoms, okay? Silence does not make it easier, okay? It's just going to isolate you more. And I see so many people in our community that take the silent route, and then you just feel so isolated and alone, like you're the only one on this planet that's experiencing what you're experiencing. And that just isolates you more. That adds so much stress to you and your life. And that stress is going to make your symptoms worse, most likely. So the truth of the matter is that you're not alone. There's millions of men and women all over the world that are experiencing what you're experiencing. So when you're feeling alone, just know there are millions of us out there, and we can have such an impact if we just get more vocal. We want people to understand what we go through, but how are they going to understand if we don't talk about it and share what we're going through and share our experience? If you want people to understand and be able to identify interstitial cystitis or painful bladder syndrome, we need to start talking about it. How are people going to know something that they never hear because the people experiencing it are afraid to talk about it, or they're uncomfortable talking about it? And I know this isn't a comfortable topic for a lot of people. I know that your bladder is, it's an organ that's sometimes a bit taboo. It's a lot of people don't feel comfortable talking about their genitalia. Okay. Honestly, me growing up, it took me a while to be able to feel comfortable saying the word vagina and penis. So if you're like me and saying that out loud, if you're alone, probably don't say that in front of other people right now. If that feels weird and uncomfortable to you, not alone. This is normal. This is the society we have been brought up in. But this is something that we can change. We can get more comfortable. We can do these things with practice. You just have to be willing to practice and put yourself out there. I know that, I mean, personally, I didn't share my story with anyone outside of like my parents and my best friend growing up. So when I got an IC diagnosis at 18 and I finally had a name for what I was experiencing, first of all, I didn't know how to pronounce it. I was pronouncing it wrong for like a month. Interstitial cystitis is a mouthful, and yeah, that's a tough one. But after I got that diagnosis, it gave me a little bit of confidence and validation to talk about it a little bit more. So I remember one day at work, I was working in a hospital as a dietitian, and I don't know how it came up, but I mentioned to one of my coworkers, I struggle with this bladder condition. It's called interstitial cystitis. And then she's like, oh my God, I have IC too. And I was like, isn't it crazy how we never would have known if I didn't bring it up? And then after that point, I got more confidence to start sharing more with people who are willing to listen. And I kept running into, it was either the person I told had a bladder condition, maybe IC, maybe something else, or they knew somebody like their mom or their grandma or their friend or somebody who struggles with IC or something similar. So it's funny how you think you're alone, and then once you start talking about it, you realize like, holy crap, more people have this than I realize. Like, I'm really not alone. So, I feel like I just had to build up a little bit of momentum in terms of my confidence and my willingness to be vulnerable and put myself out there, because it's not a comfortable conversation to have, especially if it's not with somebody that you fully 100% trust. But I want to challenge you to put yourself out there, get a little bit uncomfortable. And if somebody responds in a negative way or a dismissive way or makes you feel invalidated, then you probably don't want that person in your life. That is not the support that you need going through this journey. Okay, so keep that in mind as you challenge yourself. Okay. So this really isn't about, this is about becoming an advocate, but it's really about becoming a truth teller. And truth can be your story. It can be sharing research about IC. It's really about refusing to gaslight yourself anymore just to protect other people's comfort. This is for the people who have cried in a bathroom stall, or you held in your bladder to the point where you felt like your bladder was going to explode during a work meeting or a car ride because you didn't want to disturb anybody or inconvenience anybody. Like, I think that's the thought process of a lot of us. Like, we're self-conscious about our symptoms and going to the restroom. A lot of us get in our heads about how often you're going, and you're like, do my coworkers realize that I just went to the bathroom twice in 1 hour? Are the people on the airplane like, what the hell is this lady doing, using the bathroom 3 times during a flight? Is my family getting annoyed with me because I keep making them have to stop the car on a road trip? Like, I think we really are self-conscious, and you've probably heard me talk about this on previous episodes, but the majority of my clients, and this includes me, we are the type A personality. We are people pleasers. We are perfectionists. We don't like inconveniencing other people. And I really want to challenge you. I'm going to challenge you to challenge that mindset, that narrative in your head. Once you let go of worrying about what other people think, it is a really liberating feeling. That's a lot of stress that comes off your shoulders. I used to be self-conscious about how much I peed on an airplane, and then one day my boyfriend Sean was like, "You know what? Your roommates want to stand up, so every time you go to the bathroom, like they're probably happy that they get a chance to stand up and stretch their legs." And it got me thinking, because when I'm in an aisle seat, I am dying to stand up. I'm like, please, somebody, give me a reason. Because, I mean, you don't want to sit for multiple hours if you're in a tube in the air. So people like to get up, and that really helped me let go of other people's opinions. And, you know, even if you are bothering someone, like maybe you have to wake up the person next to you on an airplane to go to the restroom because you feel like your bladder is going to explode, like, okay. I think every human has been there. I think every human has had a moment where they have to pee so bad they're doing like a dance, and it's like I could literally pee my pants right now. That's a human experience. Yes, people with IC go through that more often, but I think we as humans have a lot of empathy just wired into us. So I really, really want to challenge you to try to let go of other people's opinions of you, especially strangers. Okay, who cares? It's a stranger. You're never going to see them again. If they're getting frustrated with you for whatever reason, like that's a them problem, you know? And the more you stress about it, the worse your symptoms are going to be. And I realized that over, you know, my 20 plus year journey with bladder symptoms. It's like the more I hyper fixate on my symptoms and worry about what people think, and just worry in general, my symptoms get worse. And the less I fear my symptoms, the less I fear other people having negative opinions or thoughts about me, the less my symptoms, or the milder my symptoms are. You guys know what I mean. So, you know, we really have to let go of what others are thinking about us and inconveniencing other people. And I know that's hard. I do. I'm just thinking about all my clients who have like taken road trips or struggled at work with having to go to the bathroom so much, or just struggled in any sort of situation. Like, it's super, like, everything you're feeling is valid, but there are little shifts that you can make, whether it's in your mindset or decisions that you're making throughout the day, that this can improve. Every attempt may not be a success, but I don't think it's ever a failure. I think trying something new or putting yourself out there or challenging yourself in whatever way, I think that's always a win, even if it doesn't feel like a success. Okay. So let's talk more about advocacy, because I know, in addition to speaking up about IC in your day-to-day life, I get a lot of questions of, how do I advocate for our community? How can I make a difference in the IC community? How can we get more funding? How can we get more awareness about this condition? Well, we already talked about the things you can do in your day-to-day life of like talking about it more and sharing more, but there is more that you can do to help our community in this condition get more funding and research. Okay, so let's talk about everyday advocacy, and then let's talk about bigger picture advocacy. So things that you can do in your everyday life, this is going to be things like explaining IC to family, friends, and maybe even strangers. I created a full episode for you guys, episode 102 of this podcast, that literally explains IC and gives people examples of how they can support you. Okay, that might mean educating your doctor in a respectful way. So if you're educating yourself and you go see a doctor and they don't seem like they are up to date on their IC knowledge, like, I think there is a way to respectfully say something, or maybe bring in some new research to your next appointment and be like, I saw this, can you look at it and let me know your thoughts? There's definitely a way to do that in a respectful way. Maybe that looks like asking for accommodations at work. Maybe you need to request to have a water bottle with you at all times if you work in a place where you can't, or it's against the policy. Maybe you need to have a conversation with your boss about using the restroom a little bit more than the average person. Maybe your desk needs to be closer to the restroom. Maybe, I don't know. I can't think of any examples there, but accommodations can definitely be made. Another thing that you can do is share your story online. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I've been interviewing some of my clients who have had success, and a lot of them were hesitant to agree to share their story, but ultimately they were like, you know what? This is the type of thing that really helped me when I was starting out. So like hearing success stories, and they said, as uncomfortable as it is, I'm going to challenge myself because I know that sharing my story will help at least one person out there, and that makes it worth it for me. So maybe you want to share a fact about IC. The Interstitial Cystitis Association is sharing 30 facts for 30 days or however many days of IC Awareness Month. You could share one of their posts on Instagram or Facebook, or I have some educational posts that you guys can share on my social media accounts. You could share those to your story. You could probably write out a little bit about your story and just share what you're struggling with. If you're comfortable with that, or if you want to challenge yourself, maybe post that on your Facebook or film a TikTok video sharing your story. I know it can feel long, like it's really hard to share your story that has happened probably over the course of multiple years in like a quick video, but with practice, it is something that is doable. I've done it a couple of times and it is kind of intimidating, but you get the hang of it eventually. And it is vulnerable. You're putting yourself out there. But if you really think about it, like, your story is powerful. Your story is going to connect with at least one person on this planet. Even if you get like 12 views, at least those 12 people, if they didn't know about IC before, at least they're hearing the term, and that's planting a seed in their head. Maybe it makes them curious about it. Maybe it reminds them of their aunt that struggles with this. Maybe they know someone who struggles with a bladder condition that just like hasn't been diagnosed with anything, and they can tag them in it or share that with them. Your story can have an impact, okay? So let's get into bigger picture type advocacy. So the ICA has a page that I'm going to link in the show notes that talks about ways that you can advocate for interstitial cystitis. And this doesn't have to be just in September, IC Awareness Month. This can be all year round. Okay, the ICA has 3 easy steps for advocating. So the first step is to find the contact information for your 2 senators, if you're in the United States, that is, and you're a member of the House of Representatives, and they have a way for you to search that. And then you can download a sample email and phone script to use when communicating with your legislator. And then you can let the ICA know that you are doing your part. And we also, something that's really cool that I'm really grateful to be a part of is every year the ICA, we do like a Capitol Hill Day where I think it's in the spring sometime. I forget what month we do it, but we go to Washington, D.C., and we meet with our state legislators, and we have like a script pretty much. You can kind of memorize it or you can read from it. And it's basically like, these are our asks for funding for IC research. And it's a really cool experience because most of these legislators or their staff like have never heard of IC before. So we usually start out by explaining what IC is to them. And then it's usually a group of 2 to 4 people. And most of us on the board of the ICA have IC. So we'll go around and share our unique stories, what we've struggled with, how we're doing. And it's really powerful to share our stories because we're also asking for funding, and we kind of have to prove like this is a condition that is affecting millions of people, okay, and a ton of people in the United States. And this is a condition that doesn't have very many treatments that are FDA approved or treatments that are working for the majority of people. So we kind of have to almost prove that this is a condition worth funding. And we always feel like we did a good job at the end of each meeting because like you just bared your soul to these people, and they usually receive it really well. They're empathetic. They're like, I'm so sorry. Like, I've had a UTI before. I can only imagine what it's like to feel like that 24/7. So it's a really cool experience, and we do that each year. And, you know, that is a big reason why IC research is happening. There's been whispers on the internet lately that there's no research occurring for IC right now. And that's not true. There is ongoing research happening. You know, we did a quick look recently to see like what active trials are occurring right now for IC, and there are some. So it's happening, but in order to secure the funding for that research, we have to keep advocating at Capitol Hill. And what you guys can do is go to the link in the show notes that I'm going to share, the ICA, the script that I just said, and reach out to your legislators and communicate with them. They are your representatives for your state. They're supposed to support you and, I guess, support you in getting funding for the conditions that you struggle with. So that is something that I would definitely encourage you guys to do if you haven't already. And yeah, I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover with you guys. But I guess to wrap it up, you know, whether you're explaining IC to a friend or you're emailing your senator about research funding, like, your story matters, okay? So just keep that in mind. What you're experiencing is real. You are not alone. Your story matters. If there are 3 takeaways, we're going to go with that. And, you know, if you want a quick way to start and do the advocacy work that I just mentioned, you know, head to the link in my show notes. And just remember, you don't have to do any of this perfectly. Just challenge yourself. Take some baby steps. Put yourself out there, get vulnerable. Every attempt may not feel like a success, but it is. Okay, you're never failing. You're always, if you're pushing yourself, if you're trying to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, that is a win in itself. So I hope this episode has been helpful for you guys. And if you have any questions at all about advocacy or raising awareness, let me know. You can always reach out to me on Instagram or other social media platforms.